Good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining this afternoon's Cuppa Club with Ant and Mary, both directors from Gower Power Community Benefit Society. My name's Paul Pizzala, and I'm Senior Investment Manager at Ethex, the direct impact investing platform, working with Ant and Mary on Gower's community share offer. So before we get started, there is some housekeeping to do. I'd like to let you know that the Cuppa Club is recorded, that this is not a financial promotion, and if you need advice, please do talk to a financial advisor. As many of you know, the Cuppa Club usually runs for 30 to 45 minutes, and it's an opportunity to ask questions about the impact that Gower Power is creating, how the team aim to achieve their goals, and how the organization is managed. So we do encourage you to ask questions, pop them in the chat box, and we can take those as we go along. So to refresh, the product on offer is an investment in community shares, the potential interest rate or target interest rate, sorry, of 6% that is being used to bring solar assets into community ownership as part of community energy together. So without any further ado, I'll ask Ant and Mary to introduce themselves, and then we can get stuck into the questions.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Ant Flanagan, director of Gower Power, an organisation that helped set up 10 years ago now.
And I'm Mary. I'm also a director of Gower Power. I'm a fairly new addition to the board. I've been employed by Gower Power for quite a while as grants and development manager. So my job is to distribute the community benefit funds to our target projects and work with beneficiaries to make sure that their projects work well.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Ant and Mary. So Ant, you've been around with Gower Power since the beginning, one of the co-founders, as well as being a board director. Can you introduce Gower Power as an organization? Tell us about its history, its location, what activities you've undertaken in the first 10 years of operating as a social enterprise.
Yeah, sure. So we were set up in 2013, in the summer of 2013, and in a muddy field essentially. We were actually exploring the option, myself and some friends. Essentially, we were exploring how to set up a community farm, and we had access to some land, and one of the fields was exceptionally wet. There's some electricity cables running over, and someone suggested, well, why don't we we're looking at the margins in farming and how to make ends meet with small scale produce, and it looked really difficult. And someone said, well, why don't we set up a community solar project, and we can use one to engage people in essentially what we were interested in, which was a broad sustainability agenda. We figured out that you could probably, make a bit of money from the renewable energy side that could support people to develop the community farm. There happened to be some grants available at the time, and so so Gower Power was born simply to secure a grant to carry out a feasibility study for a 1 megawatt solar farm, which we thought, we thought, well, it's got a chance of making it. It's not overlooked. Unfortunately, it was within the area of outstanding natural beauty on Gower. Despite all the feasibility study coming back positive, and then we put it into planning, and the planning officers recommended it for approval. But as soon as it went into planning, despite our extensive consultations and everyone telling me how much they love the idea of it being community owned, it failed, unfortunately. But through that process, we engaged a huge number of people in the local area that became very interested in the food side of things. We were talking to them about that. They became very, very interested in the community energy side of things. And we spoke to other landowners who said, well, why don't you do a project here and a project here? And suddenly we became an organisation that was involved in community energy projects. We lost another one in planning as a joint venture, was the next thing that happened. And then Swansea Council approached us and asked us to work with them to put solar on eight school buildings and a care home. And our role was to raise finance, essentially. They knew we had a network of supporters, and they knew we understood the Community Benefit Society model. So we basically ran the share offer for Swansea Community Energy and Enterprise Scheme, which is operating to this day. Another successful share offer that went on Ethex, raised, best part £400,000 in a few weeks. And that's been doing really well ever since. So that's in Swansea. And then, another project was born soon after that, which was a megawatt solar farm in Dunvant in Swansea, which we did get through planning. And that's called Gower Regeneration. Again, that had quite a few construction challenges, let's call them, where the primary contractor actually went bust. So we had to unpick all of that, and it was quite a challenging time. Our investors stuck with us. At one point, we had raised that's part of £1 million, and we couldn't draw it down because we were having disputes with the contractor. But it all got resolved. We drew down the money, and that project's operation to this day. We subsequently helped set up a local energy supply scheme that's attached to that project. So it was essentially a battery and a partnership with Ecotricity. So that solar farm is actually selling the electricity locally to 200 or so local consumers, which was always one of our aims, is how do you get people to benefit, so they get discount electricity, and also there's community benefit funds that come out of both the battery company and the solar farm itself. So those couple of successes in Swansea. We also became involved through our contacts and sort of developers, advising commercial organisations on how to deliver community benefit. Which is where we ended up, with contracts managing funds for commercial operators that develop schemes to, they also, they had obligations to deliver community benefit funds. They didn't know how to do it. In some instances, they weren't based in the area. So we ended up providing consultancy support. And so we got a potted history of getting involved in developing projects, delivering community benefit funds. And this latest one is Brynwhilach, which is hugely exciting because it's 5 megawatts. It's a substantial solar farm, and it's also it was originally conceived as being community owned back in 2016. I think is when Good Energy, the energy retailer, approached us and said, look, it was originally going to be done as a 5 megawatt plus 5 megawatt, where they'd own 5 megawatts, we'd own half 5 megawatts, because there was a particular subsidy at the time that we could both benefit from as if it was done as a jointly owned scheme. And they approached us as the local stakeholder that was clearly capable of raising funds and what have you. And unfortunately, although they got planning permission for a 12 megawatt site, unfortunately, there wasn't capacity on the grid. So it got built as a 5 megawatt site, and they said, well, we were like, fair enough, you're gonna keep your half, and it went on as a ROC project. And so we kind of forgot about it. And then 2 years later, they approached us and said, look, we're rationalizing our portfolio of renewable energy assets, and we're looking to sell the solar farm in Swansea. Would you like to buy it? Because we'd like it to become community owned. And so from that, restarted the conversations and the relationship with community energy together.
Yeah, well, that sort of is a nice segue into the next question. I mean, there's it's great to hear about your experience and how experienced and how connected to stakeholders you are. So a lot of a lot of enterprise in the last 10 years. So we have just had 5 offers on Ethex's platform. So we had Shropshire and Telford, Kent, White, and of course Gower Power, who are all part of Community Energy Together, which I'm just really interested to get your take on what does that mean for community energy as a whole, and specifically for yourselves.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Community Energy Together. I mean, it's essentially it's a collaboration between five communities that have got together. We were all well, in fact, some of the organisations didn't exist at the time, but some communities at the time were essentially trying to buy solar farms from commercial owners, and we got together and started collaborating to create Community Energy Together. And the whole point of it was, through collaborating, accessing cheap finance. So so that was one key point, is to access cheap finance, because then that would create larger community benefit funds, which was what we all wanted to see. It would also enable us to secure, the acquisition of the solar farms, and it would also mean that we could collaborate on ensuring that we had, top industry grade contracts in O&M, and carry out, a very high level of due diligence on these projects that we wanted to grow out. So yeah, Community Energy Together was born, yeah, we've collaborated on that, and it's a 34 megawatt portfolio. Yeah, so we 5 megawatts in Swansea. There's 10 in the Midlands, another 12 in Devon, 5 in Kent, 4 on the Isle of Wight, and so on. So we're spread out all over the UK. We're the only project in Wales. Yeah, it's together we're adding 20% of the 20% more community-owned solar to the community-owned solar market. So it's a substantial amount of solar going into community ownership, and together we're going to create community benefit funds of around £20 million that gets distributed, to those communities. So it's been hugely exciting to be involved in something of this scale. The other share offers have closed. We opened ours later because we had actually converted from a KIC to Community Benefit Society. We had some delays that were unexpected. We opened ours later, and we seem to have kept up a head of steam since we've opened. So we extended, and while the others closed, so we're the only one that's open at the moment. But yeah, no, it's been great, hugely interesting working with the other groups, and it really feels like we're making a massive difference to we're operating at the scale.
Yeah, brilliant. That's fantastic. So it's a win-win-win all round. Greater levels of professionalism, managing your costs, and it's not only are you producing very low carbon energy, you're producing this huge community benefit through community benefit funds, and not really important to keep our eyes on that in these somewhat financially straitened times, because I'm sure a lot of that money finds its way into really good causes, which takes me on to you, Mary. And can you explain more about what Gower Power has achieved over the last 10 years as initially a community interest company, and now as a community benefit society, through some of the activities Ant has described?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, in addition to our duty to simply develop community energy projects and renewable energy projects, we have a duty to disperse our community benefit funds in line with our governing document. So Ant already mentioned food growing and farming being a top priority. So funny enough, last night I was at a networking event for Swansea's Sustainable Food Partnership. And it was really great to see the number of community supported agriculture schemes there. Swansea has a really high number of community supported agriculture schemes compared to the rest of the UK, which is a cooperative farming model where the grower estimates their yield and sells an appropriate number of shares. Members take out their share and pay annually or monthly, and they get a weekly veg box as their share of the produce. So what that means is the grower has the security of knowing what their income is going to be for the whole season, and the risk associated with farming is shared between the grower and the members. And it's been a really successful model in Swansea. So Gower Power helped to make sure that the first CSA got off the ground. And Tom, who runs that CSA, the grower there, is currently involved in training a bunch of other growers, not just in Swansea, but all around the UK. And we've had lots of apprenticeships come through there and set up new CSAs. So some of the funding that we've already been responsible for dispersing from Brynwhilach, actually, while we're waiting to take ownership of the asset itself, has gone to support either, the building of a new polytunnel for an expanding CSA, startup costs for a brand new CSA, also Kaitan, which is now, like as I mentioned already, the best established, longest CSA that we've had. They have an education project where they work with local schools, mainly in areas of quite high economic deprivation, to get them out onto the land, teach them the joys of growing, teach them about nutrition and about sustainability. And that's a really popular project. The schools and families that participate in that tell us great things about it. So we've been really pleased to fund that. Also, just community growing on a smaller scale, groups of neighbours getting together to green up an area of their land. We work in partnership with other schemes around Swansea funded by the local authority and other partners that are just about getting community green spaces up and running. So we prioritise projects that grow food, improve the natural environment, or increase biodiversity. And normally we get projects through that tick all three of those boxes. So we're really proud of the things that we've achieved. And if you look on our website and look at the community projects tab, you can see a little write-up and some pictures of most of the things that we have funded.
Brilliant. That's really, that's fantastic to hear, and so important, to get that connection to food, get your hands in the soil and produce, get that education to children, in an early stage, so it sort of like builds that knowledge and skills for life.
Indeed, and actually just food itself. I mean, during COVID, we took a broader interpretation of what we were allowing ourselves to fund, and actually we gave funding for, we have a cafe in town that's part of a church project, which is a pay as you feel waste reduction cafe. So they take hold of food that's destined for being thrown out by local supermarkets and producers, and they run a pay as you feel cafe. They give out a lot of free meals. During COVID, we gave them a grant which they used to produce a lot of takeaway meals for people that were really, really desperate, and they were so busy. They told us that on the day that we paid our money over to them, they handed out 90 meals in as many minutes. We also contributed to a crowdfunder for a project called Feed the NHS Wales, which was started by some very frustrated chefs that were twiddling their thumbs with their kitchens standing empty, benefiting from the furlough scheme, but not being able to do what they wanted to do, which was cook. So they also identified the issue of NHS staff being absolutely worked off their feet, relying on sandwiches from vending machines, and that wasn't really powering them for their shifts. So Feed the NHS Wales was started. You had a network of chefs cooking in their kitchens in kind of like COVID safe environments, and distributing these meals to, we've got 2 hospitals in Swansea, Morriston and Singleton, and the staff there was so grateful for those meals. So yeah, food is a big part of what we do, as well as growing. Yeah,
it doesn't get any more tangible than that, does it, in terms of feeding the staff that make up the NHS? That's a very powerful story in terms of what you're using community benefit for. So I think this question is possibly addressed to both of you, Ant and Mary. Ethex investors, as we know, are very much impact led, and you've given us some very powerful stories about what you do over and above the production of renewable energy. So they do want to see their money make a positive contribution, both environmental and social, but they're also risk aware and want to earn a reasonable return. So can you talk about how community energy, Gower, and community energy together, that's the portfolio of 5 community energy organizations, balance those 3 goals that investors have? So that's
Sure. Yeah, I guess I'll pick up, and Mary will no doubt fill in lots of gaps. Yeah, I mean, firstly on the economics, I mean, I've been sort of involved in the space now for 10 years, and hands down, I've never seen a share offer or the share offers that have come out of community energy together. I've never seen share offers be so robust in terms of the levels of due diligence that have gone in. Just because of the nature of the funds that we've secured, because we've secured a very large, I think it's £28 million worth of lending. The lender has, seriously gone to town on every single blade of grass virtually to ensure that everything is in perfect order, or if it isn't, there are appropriate plans for mitigating any issues. And so the sites themselves, and I refer to them as a group because that's a key part as well. The sites themselves have been, the due diligence, technical due diligence has been extensive. So they're very, very well understood sites. There's significant amounts of contingency funds there in case there's any problems. And the by virtue of working collectively, if there's ever any kind of issue at any one site, if there's any outage, if a transformer goes down, by working collectively, we support each other. And it's an asset management model that pension funds use simply to manage risk. And so by working as a group, as a portfolio of solar farms, we've got significantly reduced risks, or the risks are managed more effectively. So from a technical side, it's the sites are really good. There's lots of support. The asset management contracts, we've got industry standard asset manager. We're contracting O&M collectively, which means we get a better
O&M, for anybody who doesn't.
Operations and management. So the engineers that go and attend the sites, check on them on a daily, well, not on a daily basis, but if there's call outs, they'll be there within hours. If there's any urgency, they'll check them on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, various different checks that ensure they're in top working order, to protect the lender's interest. But of course, as a community investor, we're piggybacking that level of due diligence. And then from a financial perspective, because we've attracted these large sums of borrowing, the forecasting, so we've had to use some super prudent energy price forecasts. So when we talk about the 6% that we're expected to offer, we're very confident about that, as we are about the community benefit funds, because we're using super conservative energy price expectations. So anything above that means we're going to make more money. And then the beauty of the community benefit society model is that money then gets used, the interest is capped to your investors, which hopefully we're offering a decent enough return, but then that money gets used for community benefit, which is what, that's why I love the space so much, is because it's all the benefits most of the benefits get localized. So, and then the final point to add on that is about working together, that because we're collaborating, we're learning from each other, and we can move in ways that we otherwise wouldn't, operating at that scale together. So that's the kind of the economic side of that. And then hopefully, we're kind of thinking with our 10 years of experience of delivering social impact already setting up other sorts of businesses, food businesses?
Well, it's more than 10 years, and you because actually, those of us that are involved in that side of the work have been doing this work for a very long time. I first got involved in grant making 20 years ago, actually. So, another area of, sorry to just jump in, but another area of due diligence is in where the community benefit fund goes. And I was at a conference recently where this was being discussed, and I realized that a lot of community energy companies don't really have a very robust policy on what they are going to fund. So they're kind of buffeted here and there, and not very strategic about what they use their funds for. So bearing in mind what you've mentioned, Paul, as the priorities of Ethex investors, those are specifically the things that we are committed through our policies and governing documents to actually fund. So, you can be certain then, by investing with us, that the funding is actually going to go on projects that do benefit the environment and support sustainability. I've given examples already, but we're doing a lot to increase biodiversity. We're doing a lot to improve the natural environment. And to make sure that people benefit from the health and well-being improvements associated with their involvement in those projects, being brought closer to the land, valuing the land and everything it can provide for them more closely, and that we work really closely to the ground. We're involved at the grassroots with a lot of projects going on around Swansea, so we make sure that we don't duplicate, we enhance. We sometimes pick up projects that have failed to get funded from other sources because they don't quite meet their criteria. So we know by picking that up, we enable that to go ahead, and it fits in with a mosaic of good stuff that's happening locally. And the decisions about funding are made by a panel of local people who've got a good spread of local expertise and experience to make sure that what we're funding is going to contribute to an overall progress for Swansea towards a more sustainable future, and not just be stuff that people are going to smile about.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'm really glad that you grasped the nettle on that one, Mary, and gave us some real insight into the way you've structured yourselves. You think about things, you're embedded in the community with your stakeholders and with the governance to deliver real impact. I think the buzzword is sustainability, isn't it? But I mean, at the end of the day, it's about making sure these things last and deliver and get, I suppose, institutionalized in some way.
Yeah, exactly. So Gower Power has a seat on the steering group of the Sustainable Food Partnership that I mentioned, and we are working to try and get local food linked up with local public service procurement. Like, how do you get schools, hospitals and council buildings to buy their food from local producers and suppliers, and shortening the supply chains in the food industry? And all of that is about sustainability. It's about food security for the future and climate change and carbon reduction, because there's so much carbon footprint associated with food transport around the world. So it isn't even just Gower Power and just our projects that you're investing in. You're investing in our continuation, in participation and collaboration with a whole bunch of other great stuff that's happening in the southwest of Wales.
Brilliant. That's awesome. Thanks, Mary. Thank you so much for that. So those are some very, very tangible aspects of what Gower Power are doing. So I'll just spell it out: producing clean energy, community farms, grant making, and being in a position to develop more projects. That's a very impressive slate. Sometimes I feel as if we focus on the tangible aspects and then we don't all talk about the intangible aspects. Probably a little bit more difficult to quantify. So I wonder if you could talk about the intangible aspects that being a member of the society offers to investors and your local community, maybe at the risk of repeating yourself.
No, I won't repeat myself. What we're providing is a sense of ownership and literally buy-in, And that is what captivated people about Gower Power from the very first share offer that Ant mentioned for skis. People were so excited that by putting their hand in their pocket for, actually that was a small amount of money. I think the minimum share was £50 for that one, was it, Ant? That really opened it up to a lot of people who felt that they could have a stake in an exciting project that was happening on their doorstep to reduce carbon and reduce the electricity bills of some schools and community buildings. Super exciting. And a legacy like that is why we've managed to maintain such momentum with our current share offer. You know, some of our partners in Community Energy Together are working in a space where people aren't familiar with this discussion and aren't familiar with the whole world of community energy and community investment. Whereas, you know, our audience in Swansea is quite well primed on all this stuff because of what we've done before. And people love that little piece of ownership. So, you know, when we're talking about the risk associated with investment, yes, people know that it's identified as a high risk investment, but people are quite happy to give over what they essentially see as a donation to a better way of working, a better way of running the energy economy, and supporting some local projects. And if they do get a return, they see that as an incredible bonus, because what they really value is contributing to what feels like really positive change, and that they can look on our website, they can go on visits, they can see the projects that their investment has helped us to fund, which gives them an incredible sense of belonging and contribution and satisfaction. And for the project beneficiaries themselves, there's a huge capacity building element. Sometimes I'm working with people who've never filled in a grant application before, who don't know how to translate the work that they're doing into those intangible outcomes that you've mentioned, you know, confidence building, skill development, you know, and to realize how valuable they are being, you know, in their neighborhoods and in the whole climate change mission.
Yeah. So we're definitely getting the head and the heart. But what I think is really beautiful about this model, what's very impressive about this model, you can have both. You can get the return on the investment because of all the you know, the quality of the project and the amount of time that's been invested in it. We know that solar works. We know there are contracts in place. There are some serious investors in the balance sheet who, you know, want to ensure that they get their return for their pension holders. So I think that's what's really fantastic about Community Energy Together. It's, you know, bringing the head and the heart together in a very practical way. Sorry, Anne, did you want to say anything, or shall I sort of roll on to the next question?
No, yeah, go for the next question. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So we're sort of 33 minutes in. We're wending our way to the end, and a bit of a plug for the next offer, whatever that may be, wherever it may be. So can you talk a little bit more about future investment opportunities?
Sure. So we've got well, straight off the back of this share offer, we're now in very interesting negotiations with a developer for another solar farm in Swansea. So that's very much watch this space. We might be launching another share offer next year for that. I probably can't tell you any more until we've bottomed out the deal and the rest. And then also Community Energy Together. We're looking at, it's very likely that we're going to do a bond offer. At some point. So yeah, we'll be inviting people to invest in that. It's not known quite when that will happen. I think everyone's quite you know, these share offers are quite time consuming. There's a lot of volunteer time that goes into them, you know, a lot of, you know, events going on at community level. So I think people will be wanting to take a bit of a breather. So we're not quite sure when the Community Energy Together bond will come. But yeah, the two key things in the pipeline. But of course, there's no time like the present.
Absolutely fantastic. And then to pick up the baton on that, and set Community Energy to have passed the minimum amount needed to go ahead and acquire solar assets. So that's kind of in the bag, so to speak. Gower at 90% of their stretched £520,000 target, which is fantastic. It's flying off the shelves. And you know, we're sort of almost there. Open for another 10 days, is it?
Yeah, we close on next Friday, the 9th. So Friday next week we're going to close off, and we extended because we went over our initial target at a rate of knots, and it seemed mad not to just open it up for more investment. So we're now looking at hoping to get to 520,000 by the end of next week, which we're not too far off.
Yeah, brilliant. No, it's been fantastic. It's been performing really well, and it's been a real pleasure to work with you guys. So that's summary and call to action from you, Ants.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, but I guess any questions, if anything comes up, just get in touch through the website. Any questions whatsoever, just get in touch. We'll answer anything we can. Have a read of the share offer documents. Do please get in there if you're interested. Don't leave it to the last minute. Please, any momentum created as soon as possible is always welcome. It helps these things excel. We want as many people to invest as possible. The more that gets invested, it essentially pays off slightly expensive junior debt, which means we have a bigger community benefit fund. So we're here with open arms. We're looking forward to working on as many members as we can.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. That's really great, Ant. It's good to hear that. So I want to thank you both, and many thanks to the audience for taking part too. The offer is live on Ethex's website, so do encourage you to go and take a look there. Thanks once again for your time, and all that remains is for Ant and Mary to say thanks and goodbye.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Paul.
Pleasure. Bye.
Bye.